My wallet is sobbing. I can hear it. I can hear it in the hall now. It is breaking down, crying.
It turns out that Attila, the arrogant so-and-so, he's got a fake hammer.
Oh, a fake?
Yeah.
Whoa.
As I say, dick.
So, welcome to episode 75 of the Mythic Legions podcast. And this week we have a fun episode for you. We're going to go into a little bit of even nerdier than nerd stuff. We're going to go into the stats behind Mythic Legions and the secondary market. And for that, we do have a stats nerd. His name is Rich, but unfortunately, he had a little injury at a water park this week. Last week. He's not in any danger, imminent danger, but he's unfortunately unable to make the recording. So we still have Mal. How are you, Mal?
I'm good.
Keeping out of trouble.
Yeah, I've got one less crease in my head than Rich has got these days.
Oh, yeah. When Rich is back on, we'll let him have the pleasure of telling you all about his clumsiness or his unfortunateness, but he's okay. But we do have a very special guest, and we were going to have him anyway, and we were just going to let him and Rich talk. So, unfortunately for him, it's going to have to be me in the Rich role. So, it's Matt Drake. How are you, Matt?
Hi, everyone. Nice to be with you all.
Cheers.
And I guess I'll take the Rich spot today and take up the hating Noble Bear mantle. Even though I really don't. I like the Noble Bear. It's not my favorite, but I don't hate it. But for this week, I do. I hate it.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, we even have you in his spot on the screen. So there you go for everything. So Matt, if you've maybe heard him when we did our chats with all a lot of the Patreon members. That was a couple of episodes ago. But Matt also has a YouTube channel called Toylytics, which delves into the kind of secondary market analysis of the toy lines, the various Legions toy lines. And Matt is kind of doing that because it's kind of tangentially related to his career and his area of expertise. So why not bring your area of expertise into your hobby? Isn't that right, Matt?
Yeah, I needed to learn how to use some software, so I figured I might as well do it with something that with some data that I actually wanted to look at, rather than just some fake data or some payroll data or purchase order data or things like that.
Oh yeah.
Figured it'd be a lot more interesting to do it this way. So
that sounds good. Yeah, rather than just trying to work out the cost of ice creams and the profitability of an ice cream truck or something. Yeah. This sounds good. So just a few little housekeeping things before we get into the meat of the episode. This week, so before you, hopefully if you listen to this on the release date on Friday, this Saturday, there is a Legion Street team out and about there in Charlie's Collectibles show in just outside Atlanta, Georgia. So Ginger Kid Collectibles is the street team there. And they'll have the Legions at the normal show prices. So I suppose $40 for a standard figure, and the rest as they normally would, with a couple of dollars on top. They have Big Dub there as well. He's doing a lot of promoting for that event, and he's involved in a raffle, which the first prize is a Jorund Runeshaper test shot. And I know, firstly, they're quite rare because I think, as you know, test shots are rare, but I think there's only 10 of Jorund. And the studio, I think, were good enough to give Big Dub this Jorund for the raffle. And that means that there was actually only 9 out there, so they were even harder. So that's a little bit related to what we're going to talk about, in a way. I think test shots would be very difficult to analyse, Matt, unless you had a couple of years worth of data, really.
I do collect it, but you're right. There's not a lot of sales on them. So it's there, and maybe a few years from now I can look at it. But you're right. There isn't a whole lot of activity.
You'd need to go maybe into there's a Facebook group called the Hall of Legends or something. They do a lot of trading, so you'd probably need to track the posts there. But anyway, every $40 purchase, so that's if you buy a standard figure at the stall, the retailer table there, you get an entry into the raffle with an extra entry for every $100 that you spend at the table. So lots of ways. I know that, for example, Wyatt from the Mythic Enablers, he's really mad keen on completing the Basilia faction. That's his favourite faction of test shots. So he's a test shot collector. So he was trying to get somebody who was going to the show to enter for him. So I think he might have got somebody, but even then he's not guaranteed to win, but I suppose it's worth a shot. But then if he finds out who wins, he'll be chasing them online at least to try and see can he do a deal with them. So that's a fun one. So look out for that one, and maybe just follow Big Dub on the Cabal and on his page and on his channel, and you'll get a little bit of insight into that event if you haven't a chance to go, or if you're not nearby, because of course America is a very big country. So even if you're
and that's
in
why
America,
these street team events are great.
Yeah.
Is because
Yeah.
people who can't get to some of the major cons, they can get down to the ones where they're visiting. And
is there anything
good.
ever near you, Matt, during the year? Or what's the nearest one?
PowerCon's actually close to me, so
Okay.
next year I'm
Yeah,
hoping
you're
that when
in Ohio.
PowerCon comes back, Columbus is less than 3 hours away. So
There you go. Well, Mal has always been mad. Well, I mean, we all are, but Mal has been particularly mad keen to get to PowerCon because he can actually go to these things, cash depending, of course. He can
I've
get away
also
more
got a
than once a
couple of-
year. What?
A couple of friends who'd like to do PowerCon.
There
as
you go.
well,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. One of your mates is he does the cons in UK, doesn't he? He covers
That's
them.
it, yeah. He does a lot of them. Geek Explorer. He's got his own little YouTube, his own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be a cool one to get to, and of course it's not just Legions, which is always fun when there's a big Legions presence, but also other stuff. So you really get value for your trip there if you're collecting a lot of things. So there you go. That's the housekeeping out of the way. Nothing else, Mal, that you spotted this week? No.
Well, a little bit of news. The Mythic adjacent, just to continue from our previous episode, the Brutal Realms Kickstarter
their
started
Kickstarter is up, yeah.
yesterday. Yeah. Some interesting looking figures. They're going the route of international shipping, and international orders will have to be done through Big Bad Toy Store. So that'll be interesting to see.
It's just a
'Cause, of
shame
course-
for the Kickstarter that they don't get the international money to kind of get them over the goal in the first place, or to the stretch goals. So
Well, it's also there's probably going to be a bit of a premium on top, and not the deals for multiples. So
yeah, tricky one.
they
But that
might
is
not
a
have
kind
the
of
appeal
a.
the Kickstarter.
I mean, Matt, you've got to come in here now because this is a kind of a Noble Bear adjacent Kickstarter. So,
I don't want any parts of it then.
There you go. Rich is going to be so proud.
My wallet is not sobbing on that.
But they do look cool. I mean, of course, this is.
They look very cool.
Like a lot of these things. I mean, AWOC was one of these where it's a small team of people that probably started out more as fans and customizers / artists that get into this. So it is a learning curve. I hope they have some kind of experienced people helping them or whatever to get it over the line, because it's definitely not easy to get these things, over the line. For example,
Our buddy Trevor took some awesome pictures for
he
them
did,
as well, didn't he?
Yeah. They're
They
not
were
up on the
fantastic
Kickstarter
pictures.
page yet, but maybe we'll see them soon. Or maybe they're keeping them for the social media, of course. And I mean, even Matt Rodriguez and his army, Jabba Ashmore, he's had a lot of help from the Horsemen and from different people to, get him going and get this, from the designs. Okay, these guys have the designs done, but the production is, quite a tricky one. So we wish them the best of luck. I did also see on the Horseman page that the retailer wave is in production. And now whether that's new or not, I don't know, but I hadn't seen that update before. Now I know they were saying that these are going to get here before the end of the year, but that makes it look even more likely. So that's Fisher Rice, for example. So you get this, the Heavy Gunner, Mal, and then Fisher Rice all in the space of a couple of months, plus a cosmic reveal in the next couple of weeks. So that's the other thing.
I've got a few Fisher Rice on pre-order.
Take all the overtime that's going. When people are going off on their summer holidays now, you're like, I'll cover for you, no problem.
Yeah. I might need to.
Yeah, I'll just clone myself and do an extra an extra 10 hours in the office. Yeah, so that's that. And next week, I'm away, but we're going to have an episode where we do some of the lore stories that have been recently published by Jeremy. So we're going to try and get them done and have that queued up. And then the week after that, it will be the predictions for the Cosmic Wave, which is always a fun one for us to do.
I'm already excited. I've already started writing things down.
That's one we actually prepare. No, of course we prepare all these wonderful episodes for you. So that's it. So let's get into the main part of the episode where we let Matt do more of the talking. Right, Matt. So I'm sure some people definitely heard us chat a couple of weeks ago, but we kind of went straight into, the topic at hand, or what was going on was the new Mythics wave. But maybe just a little bit of background on yourself. So how long have you been collecting? What have you been collecting? I think I know you before from the Masters of the Universe community.
Yes.
I've definitely seen you post and do stuff on for example, Podcasters of the Universe. You were definitely active in that group.
Yep, absolutely. I was born in 1980, so I think pretty close to when Mal was, right?
Yeah, I'm 79, so
yep.
I am the oldie here. Damn it.
November 1980 for me, Matt.
I'm slightly older, end of September.
Oh.
So when I was a kid, I did collect a lot of action figures. That was my the main toys that I had. And thankfully, my parents kept most of them. So I still, to this day, have most of my childhood collection.
That's amazing.
I was just showing you earlier, my He-Man and Battle Cat is my childhood one, as well as my Jabba the Hutt playset that's there too. That's my childhood one as well. So, and I don't know. I was one of those kids where I never liked to get dirty. I never liked to, break anything or whatever. Yeah. So all my stuff's in pretty good condition, other than when it degrades, like the He-Man leg bands and things like that. But not a whole lot. I mean, some scratches and things, but they're all in pretty good shape. So Masters, I do have a lot of Return of the Jedi items from Kenner. I did, one of the things I did get rid of pre-COVID, so I certainly cannot foresee the future. I got rid of them at a very low price compared to what they would have gone for a few years later, is all my G.I. Joes. So that would have been.
I did something similar.
Yeah, but I don't need these. I need some room. I'm not going to play with those anymore. Display them or whatever. And a couple years later, each one could have sold for 3 or 4 times probably what I got for them. But
and was that before the classified line came out?
Yes, it was even before. It's probably like 2018 or early in 2019. That I made that unfortunate decision. But
these things always
it is.
Are the right choice at the time.
Absolutely.
I think so. I think we've all had similar things where we've sold stuff and then gone, maybe I shouldn't have.
And certainly space is an issue, so I'm not sorry that I was able to free up some space at least.
Yeah, because then you got some more wonderful collectibles instead,
So after I was about, maybe 10 in the early 90s, I didn't really collect any toys. I was into music and, sports and things like that through high school and into college and that. And it was only when my first daughter was born in like 2012 that, we started getting into toys for her, of course, like baby toys and things. But once she got a little bit older, we started getting into Lego because she really liked Lego and she liked Star Wars. So I said, wow, there's a lot of Lego Star Wars things out there, right? So I started buying those for her and helping her build them. And as we were collecting more of those, those sets, I started just looking online to see just in general more about toys. I started, finding myself watching more about it. And then I found that there was Masters Classics. And then a couple years later, I found out Mythic Legions and Star Wars Black Series and, things like that. So that kind of started, I would say I've been actively collecting as an adult for about 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's similar to me. I started back into getting Lego sets and around the time my kids were born as well. And then, Googling, found Motu Classics, could not figure out that subscription thing. Now, it was in the middle of a year, so I suppose the subscription wasn't open at the time I was
Right.
looking it up. And I was like, oh, look at all these great figures, and I can't order them. And that was this, and I just wasn't in it enough to kind of grab it. And just from the kind of reading of the website, I couldn't grasp the concept that it might not be possible to purchase something that's possible to purchase at some point. So, excellent. So, you have a dedicated room for your stuff, or do you kind of?
It's kind of all over the place. I do have a dedicated room where a lot of it is stored. I wouldn't say displayed. So I'm slightly better than the Dollar General bags, but not much. So I have some shelves, but it's pretty cluttered. It's what I just showed you. I'm here in my office recording,
Yeah.
and that's most of what I have on display is actually in my office. So I have people come by and look at it and maybe look at me a little bit strangely afterwards, or try to get out of my office as quickly as possible. But I guess that's a pretty good thing too.
That's their
People
problem.
don't tend to linger, right?
Yeah, that's their
exactly.
problem, though. And then the stats thing, obviously, that comes with your job. You're a teacher, professor?
Yeah, I'm
right?
a professor at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the U.S., and I've been here for 18 years. It's
Nice.
actually my undergrad degree is from Duquesne, so I came back and am teaching at my undergrad institution.
Oh,
And are
very
you
cool.
from Pennsylvania as well?
Yes.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
I also lived in Ohio too, but that general area, Pennsylvania and Ohio, other than when I went to Georgia Tech for my PhD in Atlanta. So
Very good. So he's definitely up in
Yep.
the intelligence of this podcast this week, man.
well. Hopefully the interest level as well. I don't know, right? I don't know
Look,
if
we have
it'll be
lots
as
of
interesting
episodes.
as they always
We
are.
The
have lots
nerd
of
level,
episodes.
definitely.
The nerd level for sure, absolutely.
We have lots of episodes. You certainly can't please everyone every week. We try and do our best. People enjoy them, and whatever topic we do, we try and make it enjoyable. As we will this one, and as you will, Matt, because I really enjoyed my chat previously with you. I like chatting to you on our Discord and all those different things that we chat in. So let's go for it.
Right. I had to make
look at this.
an academic level presentation with some terrible graphics.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
So
I can already grab your logo for.
yeah, I can send you the an image of, as well.
Oh,
I can
perfect.
send
Yeah,
it to
you do that.
My logo,
so-
I tried to be as old school as possible with some word.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you have to.
I thought that was really good.
You have to do it. To lean so far in so that it looks like he's purposely doing that, not
Absolutely.
that he's
Yeah,
just
it's all-
grabbed
I
a
found
computer
word
for the
art
first
generator
time.
And I generated as many logos as it would let me. So
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So this is related to. So if you have been following it all or have seen any Toylytics videos, you will see that Matt has kind of quarterly uploads. So you obviously can't really analyze in any good way the secondary market week to week. You have to kind of.
it didn't make sense.
longer
There's not a
period.
whole lot
Yeah.
of changes week to week. It's quarterly seemed like a reasonable update level to me.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes sense. It's probably for the YouTube algorithm, it's not the best because you're kind of, you're active, really active and
not
then
active.
down.
Yeah.
And people always say you should be one a week, but yeah, that doesn't make sense for this type of stuff. So
I've kicked around an idea of maybe doing some more like what's available currently, maybe some good deals and things like that in the meantime, like in between, to fill that gap. But
Seems like a good idea.
yeah. And then I've also started collecting other lines of data. I've collected Mondo Masters, the Mondo Masters line, as well as I'm going to start Savage Crucible because I can start from the beginning.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit like Cosmic, you can start.
Right.
I guess with, well, I mean, obviously you get into it, but just from an overall, I guess Cosmic now with the sale going on, the prices must be reasonably flat. I know Slog was maybe up there for a little while, but he seems to be available again now at the retailers.
Yeah.
And some of them.
We'll
at
get
least.
into that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you give us a background then on
Yeah.
on what you were talking about.
So I
here.
always like to try to set expectations here. And, I am in the U.S., so this is going to be a U.S. perspective. I know we're on Euro Legions, so everything
It's okay.
say,
It's all relative, and you won't get enough data over here. So
it's directly related to the U.S. But I think, on an ancillary basis, a lot of the same sorts of dynamics are at play abroad, in other parts of the world.
I remember occasionally you've had an outlier for whatever reason. Like I remember Torgan Redfin, for example, when he was going for like 100 and plus on in the US, he was still at retailers here for a while.
Right.
But that was in that period where kind of the retail distribution wasn't quite as ramped up as it is now. And there was just a bit of a discrepancy. And yeah, it was very hard to get him in the US, and it was like really easy here, but doesn't really happen anymore.
So the data that I've collected is all complete single figure sales. So there's no lots of figures, there's no parts, there's no incomplete figures, because it's hard to separate. Even with a lot of two of the same character, it's hard to know if they sold for $90. Is that 45 each, or is that, would they have sold for 50 individually and then somebody got, gave a little discount for 40? So I there's enough individual sales that I just focused on that. I did, though, include both new and loose or repacked figures. So I've made note on every data point I collect, whether it's loose, repacked, or new. And eventually I could go through and see. One of the things I'd like to do, I don't have this today, but one of the things I would like to do is see, is there a premium for
that would be
versus loose and repacked?
Very useful information for people that are maybe buying
the eyeball test is that for a lot of characters, no. Right. For a lot of characters, the loose and repacked price is basically the same. But I think for some characters there are. So there is a difference. So anyway, the old answer, it depends, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but you could probably see logically that, it might be exclusive packaging, for example.
Right. Exactly.
Something like that.
Sales for figures released in All-Stars and Reinforcements and the Mysteries of Mythos Mystery Box Wave are not distinct from sales of original releases, mainly because the sellers on eBay do not know what they have.
Yeah.
So they don't know whether, some of them do, but for the most part, they don't know whether it's a 1.0 wave figure or an All-Stars 3 wave Malleus, for example. And then I did separate figures in convention packaging, such as like Vorgus 2 from Legion Con, separate from the standard release. So that is a separate listing there.
Cool. Yeah.
So looking at the data itself, and John sent me a bunch of questions ahead of time. So this is the data that I pulled together for today. These are the largest increase in average price from Q1 to Q2 of 2024. So this is in dollars, and then the next slide is in percentage.
Gotcha.
Okay. So looking at the list for especially our podcast listeners, right? The number one increase was Thord Ironjaw, going from 272.30 up to 416.42, an increase of $144.12. The thing with these, though, is that a lot of them, like Aetheron is on the list, Rhaegor is on the list, Gold Skeleton, Keltus, there's not a lot of sales. So whenever you see a few sales, you're generally going to see a lot more variability in price, because if somebody really wants that figure, they have to buy it at the price that somebody has it posted for at the time. And sometimes that price is really high. Sometimes that price is pretty low in comparison to what it has been going for a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, for instance.
It's interesting to see Gideon Heavens, Brand, and Atlas the Conqueror on there. I would have assumed that you're more likely to see a drop in the price of those because of the two version 2s that we're getting.
Well, now, see, that's a good point, but that drop happened in Q1.
Gotcha.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Because they were revealed in November of last year. So the drop was in Q1. And now they've come back up again because people, at least some people, have realized, maybe some people don't know another one's coming, but other people have realized maybe I still want that older figure too.
Right.
So I think if you looked at it across, it would be about the same level or maybe a little bit lower than it was in 2023.
And this second one, the Gold Skeleton, that's really interesting because he was in the this recent wave. Now maybe some of
I
these
think those
sales are
sales may have been
before.
in April and May, before
yeah.
that was launched. I don't even know if any sold in June, to be honest. So I
Gotcha.
think those were all in April and May.
Okay, that explains
Same
that
with
one
the
then.
knight. I wonder then if, and you'll know this better than I do, Matt. I'm guessing the gold skeleton and the knight, we may then see a drop in the next quarter.
I would expect. Yep.
as-
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I did see, I did pay attention to the night. In June, they were selling for $120 to $150. And the price right now for all of quarter 2 was $247.
Wow.
So yeah, they were
there's
selling
good-
for $250, $300 in April and May, and now they're selling for $120 to $150.
Wow. 120 would be tempting almost.
And by the way, the names here are all from Source Horseman, so some of them aren't what people really call them. The Knight is the original Knight builder. Yeah, so
Gotcha, yeah.
I just pulled the name from Source Horseman, and people can complain with them if they don't like the name that I use.
And I see Jorund has continued his
Jordan is
upward trend.
pretty high too. Yeah, up $76 from 187 to 263.
Wow.
And Rhaegar, not surprising, similar increase, 295 to 365. And I'll be rich. I'm just really upset to see that Ravenna there increasing in price, because I know that's his least favorite figure.
If he sees this, he's definitely not going to have a Ravenna anymore on his shelf, even if he didn't anyway.
If he has one, yeah.
Or he'd be gutted that he sold it for 50
a
couple of years ago or something.
What's crazy too is that Aetheron started quarter 1 at 720 and he went up. He went up just under 800.
Wow. And we have Keltis, of course, which was there a sale of Uncan on during quarter 2? There was.
Yes.
But he didn't go up.
He's coming.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this is the same list in percentage, yeah. So
yes, the same one in percentage. Kind of strange that you have like the night weapons sold $43 in quarter 1 and then up to $60 in quarter 2, which is a just under 40% increase.
Yeah. Although I think people would, as people normally look at dollar terms when it's at that price, they probably wouldn't be too bothered. But if there's a 40% increase when it's like 300 to 400,
right? Exactly.
then they're like, whoa, yeah. So, but yeah, definitely interesting that they kind of pop in there. Alithia as well is
not surprising to see Alithia on the bottom there because of the swapping possibilities with Thrace.
Ah, yes.
Kind of continued to go up.
Yeah. You see all these when you know what's going on in the line, you can definitely read into these figures quite well. Azza as well popping up there now. She might again.
She might go back down again. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she was up 45% or so, from 111 to 160.
Wow.
So I'm guessing people that got her for 160 may be able to get her cheaper now. I'm not sure, but you would kind of expect that to be the case.
Definitely. I mean, the second one is, the first one, okay, if you're a completist maybe and you want the both versions, but the second one is definitely better, and you don't lose out anything from the first version, I would say.
Absolutely.
So, all right.
But largely it's the same. And even
it's the same list,
like dollar-wise, like Alithia was maybe 15th in the list as well. Just a few nudged her out, because I just looked at the top 10.
Gotcha.
All right, so here's the decreases. Number 1, look at that.
This is good.
So there was an Uncan, and if you watch Nerdzoic on YouTube, he also brought this up in January or so. There was an Uncan.
I think I remember him talking about it.
Yeah, and that was the only one. So the average price was $15.15 after shipping. And he's come down to $450, so that's a drop of $1,067. So that's a fake drop, right? I mean, we all know that he wasn't worth $1,500. I mean, who really knows if that's a real sale? I mean, everything looks
that
true.
would be my other thing.
It looks like a normal sale. I mean, it doesn't show anything different, but who knows? With so few sales themselves, like the top. Look at the top 3 here. We have Uncan, Sir Valgard, and Otho as the top 3 decreases. Percentage or in dollars.
Yeah.
But again, there's very few there. So selling very
high. Their prices are still, 450, 43 for Valgard and 355 for Otho. So
Right.
still very high. The fourth on the list is an obvious drop, I think, given...
Yes, Gorthok. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, given that...
I was
All-Star
surprised he
6
sold for 180 in Q1, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, that seems like a really overpay there.
Yeah. definitely does,
71's,
doesn't it?
99 seems a lot more reasonable in Q2. You know what's really surprising about Gorthok is I've been doing this for a year. I've been collecting data for a year, since July 1st of last year, and less than 10 sales on eBay for Gorthok. Super low. Like, that figure does not come up at all, at least historically. Right? Obviously, with All-Star 6, we're going to get a lot more availability. So that's a really good re-release for people that want him, because he is just not available.
Yeah, I remember listening to the My Wife's Gonna Kill Me podcast a good few years ago, and one of their mates, Joe Crazy Bill,
Mm-hmm.
he bought like about 20 Gorthoks. He was collecting them.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably the only ones. But there's so many of those local guys there that he does probably
Right.
need to
They don't
sell
have
it
to put
in
them on eBay. They can sell them at a swap or
interesting.
whatever.
And Gorthok can be a bit of an army builder as well, because you got the helmeted head and the unhelmeted head. So, yeah, and now we have the Shadow Orc. I would have expected, maybe people do want a Gorthok now for their Shadow Orc army, but obviously he's coming in All-Star 6, so you can definitely, you'd have to see a drop there, back down to 50 almost, maybe a little bit above 50 just to kind of keep the uniqueness maybe of the packaging or something. I don't know. Gorgo Atherblade, that's the original?
Original, yeah, that's the original one. Mm-hmm.
So his average price is now 46.
Yeah, that's just a couple sales, and what can happen when you only see a couple sales is, I believe those are all loose. They are complete, but they're all loose. So that loose versus new has a lot more of an impact when you're only dealing with a few sales. If all of the ones are new, that with a higher price, and then all the ones in another period of time are loose, chances are you may be seeing a little bit of that loose versus new issue, in addition to just the character losing value.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
so if you want a Gorgo original version, now is definitely the time to maybe try to look for one.
Yeah. Okay, we have probably only one sale on Sir Galeron, I guess.
I think there were two, because I'm not sure. Yeah, very few. 349.99 to 272.18. Still pretty high. I think there were two though, maybe three.
And then Xylona, Faunus, and Snag are the last three on these decreases.
Yeah. So the other, we're going to talk a little later about the Mysteries of Mythos. That's a little bit of a preview for the Mysteries of Mythos impact. Is Faunus and Snag on there?
They're dropping down. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's move along. So that's in percentage. Is there any differences there?
Yeah, there's a few, right? So certainly Unken's still at the top. Gortho is next. But down at the bottom, the Gorgo and Attila 2-pack is kind of interesting. That's the signature version, the one that was signed by the Horseman. Not a lot of sales on those. I think that was just one with shipping that added up to 102.80. That pack is really reasonable on the secondary market compared to its original price. I think it was 100.
It was 100, or 110 with the signature. There you go.
So even the regular one, that one obviously sells more often, the non-signed version. Generally, I would say somewhere around 125 even shipped is about what a pretty good price would be for those. What's interesting is some like Attila, the Attila 2, he sells for like 80 on his own.
Wow.
It's an excellent 2-pack. It's been surprising to see that. Perhaps it's one of those where people feel they only need one of them, so there's not the amount being sold.
People are after that Attila 2 head for the Cosmic Mal.
Yep.
Quite possibly. Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, the Attila himself goes for the higher price than the Gorgo does. So definitely.
I wouldn't have said that when they announced it back in the day. So it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one there is interesting as well, the deluxe female orc builders.
Yeah, I've got a little more analysis on this as well. This is the one without the extra head.
Okay. So this is the one that came, the Tactics Orc female.
The tactic one, but without the
yeah.
extra head. Yeah, not the
Right.
Forge Founder version.
And she's dropped down to 84, which is 25%.
25% drop.
Interesting. Right. Now, this I found interesting on your videos was the number of sales. So pick out some highlights there for us.
Yeah, so we have two numbers here for every entry. The top number is the number of sales in each quarter from the faction, and then the bottom is the average price. Now, the average price is a little bit misleading, I would say, because you've got weapons packs, you've got wings, you've got large figures, 2 packs, that sort of thing. So maybe take that one with a little bit of a grain of salt, but the numbers that are more interesting here would be the number of actual sales, and probably not surprising, Arethyr is number one by far, right? So this data shows like 9,000 observations. I have over 10,000 if you add things like no faction, NA faction, special releases, unknown one. I didn't put that sort of stuff in there. The only one that's different is the Legions of Light. That's the
Valiant Knight, isn't it?
The Valiant Knight, exactly. Because he sells so many that I figured it was worthwhile to put him in there.
That's interesting. But, so we have 9,000 sales of Mythic Legions figures in the quarter.
I would say over 10,000. If you look at all the stuff too.
All the other pieces. Yeah, these are just
This is just part of a faction.
Yeah. Wow.
And again, that's an understatement, because I don't cover
the Facebook sales and all that.
Lots of figures. I don't cover figures that might be missing a sword or a second head or something like that too, right? So definitely an underestimate, of how much. And this is just eBay, right? Of course, we have the Cabal and we have other places that these are sold to.
Wow. So let's look at the most expensive on average.
That would be, I think, Aetheron is the most expensive, probably because you get some real big heavy hitters there with Aetheron and Dalgard.
Yeah, we have Basilia is also high.
Yep, Basilia's high, mainly because if you look at the top 5 figures there, they're all over $150. You've got
nice.
Balaam, you've got Azza.
Yeah,
there's some other ones too that are Hera figures.
They're really hard to get now. Yeah. I still have trouble getting my head around them being so high on the secondary market, because that was around the time I got into the line and they were easy to get, and I never ever thought about buying them on the secondary market, whereas Wave 1 I always think of, they must be high because I missed them,
Right.
It's just a little bit of self-bias there. I also see it's interesting that the House of the Noble Bear averages a higher price than Elithia's Brood, so there you go, Rich. Chew on that one.
It's the same thing again, though, isn't it? A number of them are older figures.
Yeah, that'll come down come the Rising Sun's Wave being released. Right,
no, it's just because they're more awesome figures, man. Come on.
True.
Well, they were absolutely due a release. That's the thing, and
true.
They're going to get more awesome with the new ones, I think. So,
absolutely.
I think what's also, if you go one back just for a second, John, the other thing too is that Arethyr, number one as far as the number of sales, not surprising because there's so many figures, right? But number 2, Xylona's Flock, also over almost 1,300 sales there too. So lots of sales for Xylona's Flock.
The Flock is good, and the average price of a Legions figure, now that could be, of course, bigger figures taken into account, but
it's
even
everything.
still an average of 88. So if you're picking up a Legions figure for the direct pre-order price, you're doing okay.
You're doing pretty well. Yep. So here I looked individually at the highest number of sales, and I sorted just by Q2 of 2024. So number 1 tied, Valiant Knight and Swig.
Wow, Swig.
47 each.
There might have been a bit of selling after the blind boxes for Swig.
I think big time.
Yeah, I think that Jeremy guy knows what he's doing. I think he's a pretty good marketer.
Yeah, exactly. And now
coming out with that story, I'm pretty sure that generated some sales.
Yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I that's funny little one here because I was talking last week about that I'm going to do a swig for, the 1,000 swigs thing that we were talking about last week that Mal has done. And then I realized I didn't have an extra swig, so I had to go and buy one. So I was picking up a couple of cosmic figures in the sale. So I threw a swig into the basket to get my swig for customizing. So there you go. There's another one sold.
The rest of the list is mostly newer figures, of course. Kind of makes sense that would be the case. Couple of the re-releases, though, from the Mysteries of Mythos. We have Snag and Zarya, 32 and 33, and then the Elf Ranger at 32 as well.
Nice.
In the quarter. So
yeah. And then, some of the others are from the in-stock sale that was kind of start of the year-ish. February,
so if you think about it, it's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's data, so I don't know. It's you got to be interested in some, respect in everything regardless. But if you think about, like, what did we have on the previous slide? We had 9,000 sales, right, over the year that we looked at. If you divide that up, you've got about 2,250 or so per quarter, and the biggest number of sales is still less than 50.
Yeah.
Think about how many figures we have in this line, if that's
True.
the case.
Yeah, that's
2,250, and the most popular figure as far as the number of figures sold is still less than 50.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's crazy.
That shows how big this line is.
Yeah, it sure does, and how consistent it is kind of at the releases, I would say, at this point. It would have been, I think, of course, hindsight's 2020, but you would have had a bonanza with this during the first year of COVID, so 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was very little released from the studio because, they obviously it was hard to manufacture stuff.
Yep, everything was delayed. And
everything was delayed, etc. So, and Big Bad had a lot of stuff on pre-order, but nothing really in stock. So, yeah, it would have been fun. So the top 12 Grail figures.
So you asked for Grails.
Quarter two,
so
yep.
I've got 3 pieces of data here. The gray bar is the average.
Mm-hmm.
The blue dot is the minimum that they sold for in quarter 2, and the orange dot is the maximum.
Right. So Uncan is around is kind of the steadiest there. Yeah. And he's the top one. So I'm just going to read down the top 12 and then we can maybe
And I did 12 just because that's what the screen showed at once. I didn't want to cut it. I just figured 12 was good enough. So rather than 10.
If you have some or all of these, you can feel happy. But Uncan, Sir Valgard, Thord Ironjaw, Keltus, Rhaegor, Gold Skeleton, so could see him drop out of this list possibly. Adamon, Otho, Orn Steelhide, Sir Galaron, Joran Runeshaper, and the Arather and Aethon 2-pack. So interesting. Now that is a 2-pack, so maybe they're cheating because it's 2 figures, but still it's 1 pack, it's one thing, and they were actually sold at the Intern last year. So people that went to Intern, there's always a little sale where you can buy a couple of figures or whatever, and they actually had this 2-pack. So people bought it for I think it was 100 is the price of the 2-pack possibly. So they would have made a good deal even if they didn't want it.
I think what's also interesting too is if you add the individual prices of Arathyr and Aethon, they exceed 250.
Yeah.
Because Aethon is about 175 for him.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
Wow.
He's gone up significantly.
Oh, I haven't.
My next video is going to be Arathyr. I haven't recorded it yet, but the next one I'm doing is
focus on Arathyr.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also I suppose Arathyr is also coming around to, if we had that cycle of the versus factions, that's now over, and we now don't know what we're getting in this G-Con. But if we were to follow the same cycle again, we would be back to Arathyr. but I guess they will probably do something different. That's for future speculations. Hopefully we get a couple of hints to point us in the right direction so that we're not going to make a total show of it ourselves. But
Like the last time.
yeah. The biggest variance of price here is Sir Valgard, and
Right.
I think that's probably down to him being not, firstly, I think we know with Duncan as well, and the Motu ones, that they're not going to be redone again, but Valgard is the first Kickstarter exclusive, so very hard to get him even for sale, no matter what you're willing to pay.
I don't know
which
if
is
I'm
why-
more gutted
I
if
know.
I'm the person who's sold for 250 or the person who's paid 800.
If I
Yeah.
remember correctly, the 800 is a new one. Was definitely a
Okay.
new one, and the 250 was a used.
Was an older one, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, it was a used one. Okay.
it was a loose. Yeah, was
Yeah.
a loose one.
Okay. Yeah, because I
Still
guess
is-
the bio card would be important
That's true.
for someone
Yeah.
like Valgard.
Yeah.
Um,
I consider the bio card as important. It is one of the things that I'm like, if they haven't got a full package,
I would consider it important for older figures.
yeah.
If I'm getting, extras or ones, if I want to army build a couple of figures, then I'm not really worried.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
The what may be surprising, I think, to me, is that Otho's so low. He's about 8th or 9th. We'd think of
Steady,
him
yeah.
being number one, but if you look at that, that's one sale
Yeah.
because the
true.
min, the max, and the average is all the same number,
All
right?
the same,
So
yeah. He's on the-
it's one sale. So if you look at the minimums, he's the second most expensive.
yeah.
by
that's
the
maybe
minimum
a good
what
way to
somebody
look at
paid.
it. Yeah.
Right. So this is the problem with having such little data with some of these figures.
But this is where you can, revisit it year on year even, and your figures will get more and more accurate over time. But it still shows you, I think, if you asked a fairly knowledgeable Legions fan to name the top 12 based on price, they wouldn't
hit a
be
lot of
too far off these. Yeah,
Yeah,
they'd hit.
they would hit a lot.
I'd say 8 would be probably hit here.
But for me, it raises an interesting question as well. What is rarity? Is rarity the number that are out there or the availability of it?
Yeah.
And that suggests Otho is more rare than the others because there's only one person willing to let that figure go. So
For a price somebody was willing to pay for it.
yeah,
Right.
of course, yeah. Whereas some of the others, people are going, that can go, possibly because of how much they can ask for them. But yeah, it's interesting.
This next graph, I don't know why I made this originally, but I think it's kind of interesting to see that this is the count of the number of sales per day. So for the last 370 days or so, and there are some days here like September
The
20th
spikes.
and April 20th of this year. There were huge spikes, like over 100 units sold in one day.
Wow.
And then for the most part,
Have
generally
you
we're
dug
talking somewhere
deeper
between
into any
20
of
to-
those two big spike days, or
No,
that's maybe something to look at?
not significantly.
Yeah. Like, did someone put their collection up for sale or something?
It could have been that could be the case because there are a lot of auctions. When an auction ends, if somebody auctions like 50 figures, they'll all
Yeah,
be sold
they'll
that
all
day.
end in the one
Yeah,
day.
so that I want to say that's what happened in April because that was
Yeah.
data I just collected, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. I think that's what happened.
But
Is that there were so many?
the other thing to say about this graph is
Not April. I'm sorry,
there's
it
an
was June 20th. But yeah.
upward trend in general.
Yeah, so that's what
for the number
I
of
put there
sales.
is that there is a statistically significant trend of the amount of sales per day increasing over time. So if you look at the coefficient there in the formula in the little box, it says 0.0335 units per day that we add on average. So if you multiply that by 30, that's about 1 unit per day extra that we're selling per day every month.
Wow.
So over the course of the year, we're seeing an increase of somewhere around 10 to 12 units per day from July 1st of 23 to July 1st of 24.
Be interesting to see when that gets to the point where the number of new fans aren't growing, or and then the prices start to in general come down.
That's
because,
exactly my thought is that
Yeah.
this, at least to me, I mean, I'm not an expert here, but
Yeah.
it seems to be some indication of a healthy line.
Yeah.
Is that
I
there's
think
still
so.
a market for more and more of these figures selling every day. That seems to be good for me. Now you could say, you could have a pessimistic viewpoint too,
Mhm.
and say, well, more people are dumping their collections, but somebody has to buy it.
Yeah.
So I mean, every transaction has to have two parties. So I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Well, and to be fair, we also know that with the older figures, there was a habit, a tendency for people to buy multiples of figures, knowing that they increased in value. So the potential is these are older figures up to a point that are selling, rather than the newer figures that probably aren't selling as many because there's more availability and people are aware there's more availability of the newer figures as well.
Mhm. And
Yeah, but sorry,
there's
man.
many more retailers than there used to be.
True. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this is just eBay, right? So this is the secondary market. You don't have to go on the secondary market to find a lot of the newer figures.
No,
They're still in
exactly.
stock at a lot of retailers.
Yeah, but and unlike, say, we say the stock market, to take for an example of something that's like more of a perfect market because the information is kind of more of it. The people that are trading on the stock market, they have all the information, or at least they should do, because that's their professions about it.
Mhm.
This is some people have way more information about the figures and the line and what the price is than others. So this is where you get some wonky stuff in the data, because
Well, and
you
you
have people.
also, and I'm hoping that that's my niche as far as my channel
Yeah.
and the sort of the analysis that I'm doing is to help people see more of that data,
Yeah.
to try to limit some of that asymmetry, as we would call it, in the data between parties. I think the other thing that you have to look at too is that there's people, you see it on the cabal all the time, right? People get into a financial difficulty for whatever reason in their regular life, and they
Yeah.
have to sell their figures, right? And the same thing happens on eBay too. So there's that issue too
Totally. Yeah.
that is almost impossible to predict, other than like general trends of the economy doing well or not doing well.
Totally. Yeah. And when there's more and more competition out there, do you want to be the guy that hangs out for the best price, or do you want to be the guy that's undercutting it and just guaranteeing yourself a sale? So there's lots of different types of sellers, I guess.
So
Right.
this,
Here's an interesting one.
yeah. So John, you asked, are there figures that are selling for less than retail?
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically that list.
Cool.
Now, of course, some of these are above retail, right? So retail is $50. All these are standard figures. So
Yeah.
retail is $50. I took everything else out. And you can see that there's a lot of figures here on the secondary market that are selling for definitely less than 50 in that $40 range. Some of them even average less than $40, like Okiedos and Azar and Bryophytus. Again, probably not surprising to people who spend a lot of time in the Legion's realm, so to speak, in Mythos, right? But there are still a lot that are available at something that's less than retail.
So I think
Yeah,
the
so-
most surprising one on there, the two, let's say, would be Xylernian Guard
Mm-hmm.
and Gorgo. I'd maybe Daban as well. I'd have expected them to still be getting retail at least. So.
I think those are the ones in a year or two that you will see will no longer be near this list, whereas some of these others might still be somewhere on this chart. I wonder with the more recent, shall we say, PowerCon Motu / figures like Xenothon, Bryophytus,
Mm-hmm.
Is it now the point where there's enough of them produced that the kind of people that come in from the Motu angle have got them and are aware of them, and so you will never have another Uncan or Celtus or Adamant situation with these, it looks like.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think we'll ever see something like Celtus, Adamant, Uncan again. I mean, the data shows even some of the ones like Kawaros or Melina that are $90 to $100. We're not seeing that anymore either.
No.
With these,
I think an interesting one on here for me is Bronze Dwarf. So, okay, retail for the Bronze Dwarf was Legion builder price, so I say 30, just to be kind of what you get it at a con for.
right?
it's okay. It's nearer to 60, but it's still for a figure that's probably much more harder to get now than it was a year ago. It's still not too bad.
I wonder if I know it's a different looking figure, but I wonder if the Cavern Dwarf has kind of stolen some of its thunder. The Cavern Dwarf
Could
2
do, yeah.
becoming more available
Yeah.
might have brought that down. Because I know
Yeah.
it's different color and everything, but it's still
but a
dwarf
lot of the
builder.
dwarf sales are people looking to do a pop and swap or a custom.
I wanted to
those
mention
ones
what
for
I put
sure.
in the title here. I excluded Poxus because, again, just released.
Yeah.
Basically, all of those are less than retail or at retail on the
At
secondary
retail,
market.
yeah.
And the Deluxe
slug up
Legion
the
Builder,
graph.
I wanted to get those out of here too for this particular graph.
Makes
But
sense.
I think going back to your point about the Zalarian Guard and Duban, I agree that I would see maybe in a year those would be in the 60 plus range. But I think, and again, this is just me, but I get the feeling that All Stars 5 Plus wave was overproduced.
Yeah, or there was, they got a lot of inventory from that.
Or they, whether it was overproduced or they got a lot of retailers that overordered.
Yeah.
That's still in stock at a lot of places when, other waves that have come out, some of the waves have come and gone, like Cosmic 1 is sold out in a lot of places. The Valkatar Book 1 sold out in a lot of places, but you can still find basically all of those All Stars 5 plus even the new figures, right? We're talking about the new figures here.
That was the wave that was produced very quickly, as in because they slotted it in because there was a delay on Cosmic. So I think it was 6 months from pre-order to production. So I do wonder if that has a factor in it. I don't know.
Yep, could be.
But yeah, interesting to see because there's a lot of good figures in that wave. And two of my favorites, as we just mentioned, Zalarian Guard and Duban.
If you look at the top of the list, I think you're kind of seeing the pattern that we're expecting to see for these others with Sir Owain and Malleus, right? Where those are older All-Stars figures that are less available at retail anymore. So now the price is increasing and they're close to 60. That's kind of the typical trajectory we would probably expect.
Yeah.
Vitas even too. He's right around 50. He's kind of the next one, and Scaphoid are the next ones to try
to. Jonathan Hughes, a friend of our show as well, his best efforts on Vitas, not quite getting him up there. Probably good though, because he can get more then. Reinforcements 2.
Yeah, so I brought this up just in comparison with the last chart, right?
Yeah.
So Reinforcements 2 was available a lot after, long time after some of these other waves that we showed on the previous chart. But look at these prices.
Yeah. So
like every one of these of the standard figures is between $50 and $60.
Yeah.
And you can get those for 26 individually.
26, yeah. In the pre-order, and then, shipping, if you bought a lot of them, your shipping is going to maybe bring it up to 28 a figure. If you're in the US, maybe closer to 30, 33.
Even 30 max, right?
Yeah. Even over here, I mean, I think I averaged it out. We got a big order with a couple of people here and averaged it out at around 30 something a figure, early 30s a figure.
So what's the common denominator in the Reinforcements 2 wave? Availability.
They're all not at retailers.
You can only get them through the Horsemen.
Yeah, and then the next playground for them is eBay.
Exactly, right? So this is how I've changed my purchasing, right?
Yeah.
Is that I still buy an all-in generally because in Pennsylvania we get pretty good shipping and it's not too expensive. But I mean, I can still pay $20 to $30 for an all-in for shipping. It's not super cheap.
It's not crazy,
but it's way better than many other people in the U.S. and elsewhere in the world for sure, right? So I do that because of the discount. But everything else, I generally get on the secondary market if it's going, or not secondary market, I should say, from retailers, if it's going to retail. And the ones I still buy from the Horsemen are the ones that are not going to retail. Things like these in the all-in, or not in the all-in, the in-stock sale that they did recently.
Yeah, and then of course the figuras and stuff that they sell direct as well. Obviously. Okay, so that was a very interesting one. Mysteries of Mythos Market Mayhem. I love that heading.
So these are the 14 figures, just in alphabetical order, that were reproduced
Yeah.
according to the Instagram post from the Horseman, right? And I checked the sales, and basically they were at their new prices around April 25th. So my cutoff is April 25th, 2024. If it's sold before that, it goes into the before bucket. If it's sold April 25th or after, it's in the after bucket.
Gotcha.
And here are the changes in price. They're all decreases in averages. And you can see some decreased more than others. So if you look at Kador, for instance,
Yeah.
he was 166.40 beforehand and 109.57 after.
Yeah, so that's
34.15% decrease.
that's the one I would have guessed had the biggest decrease, because he was definitely the most rare of those reissues for me, I think.
And what's kind of funny, if you just look at the stats, that difference is only significant at the 10% significance level, compared with 1% for most of the others, even though it's the highest decrease, because the variability of the before prices for Kador was astronomical, right?
Oh,
Some
okay.
were selling
Yeah.
for 300 and some were selling for 100, right? So
Oh, really?
there's huge
Okay.
variability beforehand and only a few data points. So you don't get a lot of statistical significance there when there's only a few data points, right?
Interesting.
But everything else, for the most part, is significant at that 1% level, except a few of the smaller decreases.
So,
But some of the other major decreases are Shadow Elf Ranger and Sir Godfrey, both over 27% decrease. And Hagnon, 26% decrease.
proper order.
And Snag, 26% decrease. And Zari Brother Mandibulus and Faunus around a 20% decrease.
They're great figures. Gonks is an interesting one. He's pretty much held steady.
Yep. Gonks has held steady.
So he's around the 100 to now 92. So.
Yep. And the
And
Fury
Fury
Clan Orc as
Clan
well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just about
78 to 73.
There you go. So there's a very interesting table for all of you ones that participated in the Mysteries of Mythos. And if you're looking to snag one now, no pun intended.
Looking to snag a snag. Yeah.
You can see what your best options are there. And
So
I think it's clear to me that hanging on the lowest price of these available still on secondary
Yes.
market at 57.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes sense because of the Hagnon, the blue one.
Right. The blue, it's kind of a double effect. Right.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of Hagnon fatigue now.
And I know that some people had valid concerns about the whole process of a mystery box and all that, and that's definitely understandable, and they're definitely a valid concern, and not liking that sort of gambling aspect and that. But I think if you look at these sorts of prices, it's really hard to argue that it was a bad thing overall for the market, because there's so many more figures that were available at a more reasonable price than people were able to pay before.
This is definitely a table you should do again in end of September, and you'll get and if it might stay the same or similar, or it might even go down further, would be my guess.
Right. So I did a
version
similar
2 effect.
Yeah. So this is definitely preliminary, because we don't have a lot of version 2s that are actually out there right now. But this is how the version 2s have changed compared, the prices of the version 2s are versus the prices for the original figures there. And obviously this is going to be more relevant moving forward, because we're going to see more and more of these in the future.
Yeah. So, what's the
the
biggest one here?
The biggest one, the biggest change, I think, is, it's certainly Gorgo, in quarter 2, because he dropped so much, right? The original Gorgo. But if you look at quarter 1, right, he was, 142.39. So, again, just not a lot of sales for him. What's a little more interesting to me is looking at like Baron Voligar, right? Because, we had that original figure, All-Stars 3, and then we had the Baron Voligar 2 that came out in the Lithia wave. And both of them now are well above retail price.
Yeah. I
because
noticed
they're
that
not
with him
really
as well.
available anywhere else.
Yeah.
And the Baron Voligar 1 has a higher price than the Baron Voligar 2.
I wonder if that comes down to it's a good one to be used as a Legion builder.
Yeah. Yeah, now
Because
if you
it's
get
so
your Baron
nondescript.
Voligar 2, you can have 2 helmeted of the original be either side of him.
As guards. Yep,
May have done that, Mal. May have done that.
It's also possible that, and again, I don't know this for sure, but even if you count the original Baron Voligar figure, whatever wave he was released in, Covenant of Shadows, I think, and then All Stars 3, if you add both of those together and how many were produced, it's possible there are more Baron Voligar 2s out there. Just because the
I'd
line
say
got so much bigger in the
be
time when
close,
Alithia came out.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That's total speculation, of course.
Yeah. And interesting to see, so Vorgus Vermilius, the original, has got a re-release in All Stars 2, and also we've had the version 2 now with the Legions Con and non-Legions Con version, and his price is still steady at 130.
Yeah, right around 130.
Average.
It's been pretty stable every quarter.
Yeah,
I mean, quarter
so-
1 dipped a little bit, but
Yeah.
quarter 2's back up to 130.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
he's a popular figure.
Artemis is kind of hard too because that original figure was a deluxe, so it's hard to compare.
That's true, yeah.
But as you can see, both figures are very popular.
True, and that Artemis original comes with fairly unique wings, so I
Right.
think people are probably interested in those
Mm-hmm.
as it is. Forge Founder effect.
And then we
what's
have the Forge Founder
this is from
effect.
the tactics.
Yes. So this is basically how much is somebody willing to pay for a little head? That's what
Boom,
this.
boom.
That was. Yeah, I rehearsed that one, right?
That's nice. Mal would be proud.
That's what I didn't want to call it out, but yeah, I figured as much. So again, the top line here is the average price. The bottom line is the number of sales. So not a lot of sales. These have become kind of forgotten, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't hear a lot about them anymore. In quarter 2, we had the lowest sales possible. A third of what was sold in quarter 4 of last year, just as an example.
Wow.
But looking at them, you can see that if you just go from top to bottom, the female elf builder, more recently, that additional head is selling for like $27 more.
Wow.
Because that's the only difference between those
That's the only
figures. Now,
difference between the
historically,
two.
it's only about $8 different.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's obviously you get the package as well. There is a little packaging difference if
A
people
little bit,
are,
yeah.
but
Not
it's not
not
worth-
like a Legion's Con type package, though. It just has a little Forge
No,
Founder.
it's just a little
Yeah,
logo, yeah.
right. The female orc builder, again, similar sort of difference here. We have about $28 difference, and historically that's about 12 or so.
Yeah.
Of a higher price. The male elf builder, not as high, right? It's only about a $5 difference, but historically, more so like a $19 difference. Not or
Wow.
$21 difference.
Yeah.
$21 difference. And then the male orc builder, recently we had, what's that, about $19 or so, and then
Yeah.
historically it's only been about $5.
Wow.
So
So there's a
generally
difference,
people are
yeah.
willing to pay.
Yeah, for sure. So the combination of the head and the packaging, but I think if you're buying these, you're probably opening them. So just the head.
If you look at the first, like the upper left-hand corner, though, the female elf
Yeah.
builder, for instance, right, quarter 3, 2023, when they were released, the one without the extra head went for more.
That's just that has
Which,
to be an anomaly. There
Again, it's just like, and same thing with the female orc builder
Yeah.
in quarter 1, right? So again, when you get down to a few sales, people don't
Yeah.
know. That's that information
That's that
issue we
market
talked about
kind of,
earlier.
yeah.
You're always going to have that, right? If you see more and more sales, though, you're going to get to show that extra head is worth a little bit, at least.
True.
Right.
Cosmic Legions. So
Yeah.
what
This
we
is everything.
mentioned before. Yeah.
And basically, again, this is largely before the sale happened,
Yeah.
because this stops in June 30th. Okay. Basically everything is below retail price.
Wow. On eBay. Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing that is not below retail price is what I said earlier. Walter the Mad, Cosmic individual Walter, selling for about $60.
Yeah, because you could only get him
can
direct.
get him
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the direct sale or at the shows.
Yeah. And then
everything else is less.
we can see there's the odd high seller for almost every figure, but a few particular. Someone bought an Operative 83 for quite high, but that's probably in the period where it was the PowerCon one.
Well, this is just Q2, so this. I mean, it could be just
might
the
have been
PowerCon
just
was
before.
Available. Yeah, just before it was released. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So now is the time to. You've heard it here now. Between the sale that's going on, between what Matt is showing you is going on eBay here. If you're thinking about Cosmic, you're not going to get a lower prices for this on the early waves. And if in 4 years' time these are going for wave 1 mythic prices, I'll be looking at this video going, I told you so, lads. And Figura Obscura, this is one that definitely is going to have some variation.
Yes and no, right? So, for the Headless Horseman, for example, we have both releases have both been out for a while, and the price is basically about the same.
Wow.
Between the original release and the Spectral Green release. For the other ones where we have releases like Father Christmas and Krampus, the original still commands some sort of premium.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a preferred version for a lot of people.
Yeah. That original Krampus is nearly 100 on average. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that original Krampus is getting hard to find. It's the price is increasing pretty significantly. But the other thing that I think stands out here is, and I have some individual sales to kind of make this point as well, but once the figure originally sells, if you don't get it in the original sale from the Horseman, my recommendation is just wait. Because especially with Figura Obscura, we know that for the most part, at least if the future continues the way that the past has, that they're going to release the retail version, right? They're a year or so later. And that's going to kind of temper the value of the original too. Maybe not exactly the same, but for a while, it'll settle around that kind of $75 to $90 range, which is not the $120 that these are going for on eBay right when they're sold out from the Horseman.
Yeah. Yeah, that's much closer to what you get them for, because you still have to factor in shipping, and even in the USA, it's probably 15 to 20, no matter where you live, for just a figure.
Yeah, just for one.
Maybe if you get two, you could probably get the same shipping, but everyone is probably scrambling to get an all-in or one at the start, and then they go back and see what they bought.
Even I think it's pretty well established that the Monkey King is, probably one of the most well regarded of these figures, right? And even he's just above $80 right now.
Yeah, he's actually lower on average than Krampus, the original, which, when you take it that Krampus is a little bit older, but I would have thought Monkey King is more popular, and now maybe
he's kind of settled down.
Yeah, maybe the retail version has settled that down, because it's not hugely different.
And this is just my viewpoint here, but I think the other thing that we have to remember too is that a lot of people tend to forget. They start looking at the new things that are out, whether it be in Legion's lines or other lines as well, and they're always looking at what's coming next. After the hype dies down for maybe 3 months to 6 months, you can generally, you may not be able to pay the direct prices anymore, but you're not going to pay double if you just wait a little bit. And that's my biggest suggestion to everybody out there is, I have it on the last slide where I talk about suggestions, patience, right? I mean, none of us have a lot of patience, right? We want it when we want it, right? It's understandable, but if you can have that patience, you can, at least try to save yourself some money. So, John, you asked about when do a lot of sales happen? This graph really stood out to me. This is the Volcatar Book 1 Cosmic Legions, right? So I was looking at this when I made my video for this. Look at these peaks. So these are just the number of units sold. Each color is a different character, okay?
Yeah.
So we had a lot of sales when it first came out in July and August of last year. We had a lot of sales in November and December when Volgatar Book 2 came out. And we had a
Yeah.
lot of sales in May of this year when Outpost Axios came out.
So it's
So
always
this-
around the time of the drop.
Always
Yeah.
when the drop
Yeah.
happens, people remember this line exists.
Yeah.
And then they start trying to buy the figures, right?
And and also, is that an indicator of new? Not all of it, obviously, but some of it is new people who weren't in. Thought, well, I'll try these. Some of these look cool. I'll get one or two of these, and then they're like, now I need to go back and get the ones I didn't have.
Good point, man.
Feels-
I think that's definitely some of it as well. Absolutely. But you see that lull sort of in the middle, and maybe that's because I haven't plotted
Other
this
things are
against
going
Mythics
on, yeah.
too, but maybe the Mythics releases are in
Slotting.
that same
Yeah.
time, right? In
Yeah,
the
there's
lulls, right?
There's an idea. Yeah, and of course, there's always people that buy extras when they pre-order,
Mhm.
and when they, when the wave drops, then they're selling them. So
Yeah, they either had some ideas or decided, oh my gosh, I spent too much,
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah,
and then they sell
to
them.
recoup
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
next pre-order. Tusk
So just as
Legion
an
builders?
example of the prices at the beginning versus a little bit later on, these are all three tusks together. You can see the different colors there.
Yeah.
Look at what they were going for in July and August of last year.
Wow.
They're going for $50 to $70 consistently. And we know that the retail price of these is $45, and right now you can get them all for $36,
Yeah.
right? And generally that's what happened. I mentioned this if you watched my videos on the Cosmic. I made a mistake. I actually have a gap of shame here. I thought I collected the data in March and April or something like
Yeah.
that, February and March. I have a gap, but regardless, I picked it back up in
I think
quarter two.
it looks
complete,
like it would
so.
be consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine it'd be much different there, right?
Cool. And
yeah.
then Monkey King?
Yeah, so just to show kind of what happened with
It's a
Monkey King
different
after
look.
he was released, he was selling again consistently for 100 plus, 100 to 130. You can see a lot of sales there. But more recently, he's been selling for, as we saw on average, about 80. But generally, I would say between about $70 and $90.
Yeah. So as we say, wait a little bit if you.
Same. So these are all the graphs for the ones that were
Euro.
released in 23, right? So Mask of the Red Death, same sort of thing. At the beginning in October, he was selling for, again, 100 to 130. Again, there were some sales that were consistently 90 to 120 or so. But now, again, where's he selling?
Is
60 to 90.
Yeah, dropping down below. Jacob
And
Marley, a
Marley
little
as
bit
well.
steadier drop, but yeah,
Yep.
similar.
I think anything that has the any sort of that holiday connection, when it's not holiday season like the Father Christmas, you're probably going to see a little bit less.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah,
Absolutely.
very good point.
So buy in the off season. buy your Father Christmas now, right? Christmas in July, right? The prices are probably low.
Totally, yeah.
So these are my main takeaways overall and my suggestions for everyone out there to try to maximize what you can get out of the money that we all have, which is all limited. And that is patience, right? Recent waves are still available at below retail price on the secondary market. And we've seen retailers have pretty consistent sales. You can still get them for $40 to $50 pretty consistently. Exclusives from the Horsemen, order those directly if you want them, because those tend to go up faster than anything else does due to the availability. The figure obscura prices tend to normalize 3 to 6 months after release. And, in general, it seems like re-releases are good for everyone except the sellers, right? Because more of these are available. If you do want that figure at a lower, you're able to pay a lower price to get them once it's re-released. But we don't really have enough to say right now about the version 2s, right? And the last thing I want to mention too is just a caution, is that we don't know how the Horsemen are going to deal with this overstock or potential overstock situation, and if they correct production moving forward.
Yeah.
So for instance, the Necronominous wave that was ordered a long time ago, but for example, the Ashes of Agbendor, right? Are we going to be in a Super 7 type situation where a lot of the retailers aren't ordering extra copies anymore?
Yeah.
So they might sell out a lot faster. I don't know, right? I mean, always I would say if anybody really likes a figure and you need it for your collection, buy it. If you have
Yeah.
the money, buy it when it's available. You don't know what'll happen. But if there's figures that you're a little more lukewarm on, if you want to see them in hand, see some reviews, it probably is going to make sense to wait a little bit and take a chance of finding them later.
Totally. And of course, it's always worth saying that, the longer you're in the line, join the various groups, try and make friends, go to the con if you can nearby, whether it's one where it's got a street team or whatever. There's loads of nice people, and you'll eventually make some connections that will, of course, help you, and you'll get stuff for, maybe you won't get the stuff that's under retail at eBay. It's probably still, your best bet is to get it off a retailer or eBay at that point. But stuff that's maybe a little bit older, you could get some good deals in the groups and making connections. Right. So, Rich did have a question to you about what's your favorite chart. So,
well, he asked about why donut
is,
charts are the best, and that's why I say here, don't discount pie charts, right? Because pie charts these are some of my favorite terrible pie charts. But I thought the one on the left was really an American chart, right? Because this is a pie inside a donut. And it seems like something we would have here in the U.S., right, where we have donuts replacing bread on sandwiches. Seems like that's an idea that whose time has come to have a pie inside a donut.
And then if you bring it to Scotland, you can deep fry it. Throw a Mars bar in there as well. Very good. Well, that was awesome, Matt. Thank you for your analysis. And I think I'm definitely, and I've watched a lot of your videos, but I'm still more intelligent because I'm actually engaged in talking to you about the stuff and having to, kind of make sure that I'm understanding what you're telling me as you're telling me, instead of just staring at a YouTube screen and, my kids come and distract me and I'm like, and then I have
Not
to
the
go back.
easiest way to absorb charts and things.
Sometimes
right?
can be.
Exactly.
But definitely very interesting. I hope Rich enjoys it because he's very sad that he couldn't make it here. But you will find out in a couple of weeks what happened to Rich, and the story is good, but not good for Rich. But it's a good story. It'll be a good story by then because he'll have pretty much recovered. So I am not going to do it a disservice by telling it. I would rather he would tell it. So. I think that's it.
I just wanted to thank you guys so much for having me. I really enjoyed being on with you.
Absolutely. I
interacting on Discord and everything as well. It's really enjoyed being part of the Euro Legions community in particular.
Absolutely. We're so happy to have you. It wasn't long after you, and I think it was when you started to promote your channel in the Cabal, that Rich actually sent a message to our chat, our podcast chat, the three of us. And he was like, the way I like my spreadsheets. I love this guy. He said, I'm sure there's people, it's not probably for everyone, which of course, nothing is for everyone.
Absolutely.
But if you're into it, you're into it. And that's the best thing. That's the best side of the internet is that there's cool things, nerdy things for everybody that you have an interest in. And this is another one of those.
As I've told other people too, like, and I told you when we had the first chat about the recent reveal, I'm not a painter. I'm not a big customizer. I'm not going to have a lot to contribute to the community that way. This is the sort of thing I can contribute. And again, it's probably not everybody's cup of tea, but I thought it's at least interesting for me.
You've got a podcast across the pond that's interested in it, so you're not doing too bad.
I think I'm also I've planned, since I have 10,000 data points, I'm going to give this data to my students this upcoming year. And all the data manipulation and things we do are going to be based off of this data, because you don't normally get data sets with 10,000 observations at a student level. So
no, I mean, I did
digging into Legions all fall, whether they like it or not.
I did an economics degree, and I can tell you, if one of my professors came with a lecture about this type of stuff, I'd have been much more interested in it than some of the other stuff that they were talking about. So
it's a captive audience. So,
so Matt, tell us where can people find you? You have a YouTube channel. What is that?
You can find me Toylytics on YouTube. If you have any suggestions for analysis you would like to see, or questions you have that I haven't addressed on a video or like in today's presentation, just send me an email, toylytics@gmail.com, or you can find me, Matt Drake, on the Cabal on Facebook as well.
Cool. And don't forget to comment on the Toylytics videos as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah. And especially if it's like, oh, you missed some data there, Matt, you know, really, you can
I
see
love having that pointed out. Absolutely.
It's going to cause him some pain, you know. He's going to be... It's like me when I'm listening back when I'm editing the podcast sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I said something wrong there, and I said it right in the middle of a load of other stuff, so I can't really cut it out because it'll just be too obvious.
Too abrupt of a change there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but when the other guys do it, I just laugh and leave it in, you know.
That's the advantage of being the editor, right?
Yeah, no, I don't. I won't do the dirty now. Don't worry. But this one has been pretty good. I don't think I have much work to do apart from, of course, put it together. So I'm very happy with that. Thanks again, Matt. We will. Are you going to Legions Con? Remind me.
That's the plan. Hopefully.
Awesome.
Yes,
Yeah,
I have.
you can drive there, can't you?
I have my tickets. I'm ready to go.
Well, can't wait to meet you in person. And then obviously, I think you're going to be on the list for another episode next year because we have to revisit this with even more data and with Rich the next time for sure, and also that we can compare some maybe interesting things that have changed since the last time, because that's always the fun thing about this kind of stuff.
Yep.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Well, there we go. Another week of Your Allegiance. Catch you again next week. New wave coming soon.
Stay safe out there. Even more so by a pool.
Take care on those water slides.